Hello, my name is Rodney Robinson and I'm going to talk to you in this video about pendulum healing and pendulum transformation. Now this is work which is done using a high vibrational pendulum. And in my Facebook group called Pendulum Dowsing and Energy Balancing, I get asked a lot about what pendulum is good to use for what particular task. But it's really an impossible question to answer definitively, because any pendulum of a high vibrational nature will be good for all pendulum uses. And by a high vibrational nature, I mean one that you dowse to be as a passive emitter of high vibrational energy. And this is down to the pendulum's form and shape. So I'm just going to show you a few examples of high vibrational pendulums from my own collection. This one is a Hathor pendulum, and as you can see, it's comprised of many of the features that you see, or a combination of features that you see in the typical Egyptian styles, containing a sphere, the discs, the hemispheres, and the elongated portion, the pointed portion, reminiscent of the Karnak pendulum. So there'll be a few different designs put together to create this one with its own particular qualities. Now, to find out the vibrational state of your pendulum, you use a percentage chart. And I like to use a percentage chart that goes a little above 100%. So a chart that goes to, say, 150% will be fine. You can download this from the file section of the Facebook group. And as always with chart dowsing, start with your pendulum swinging in the neutral position, backwards and forwards, to and fro. Hold it over the chart and ask, indicate the degree of high vibrational energy of this pendulum. And let the pendulum give you the answer. And to get the energetic colour, use a colour chart and say, indicate the energetic colour of this pendulum. And again, let the pendulum give you the answer by pointing to the correct segment of the chart. Now, all of these pendulums that I'm going to show you, unless I indicate otherwise, are of a very high vibrational nature, somewhere around 130% on the chart when I ask that question, and mostly of a negative green energy emission. Another commonly used pendulum, which is very good, is the Isis, the Egyptian Isis style pendulum. And again, this is a negative green energy emitting pendulum when I hold it over the chart, and a very high vibrational output. It's a very good one to use. One that I'm really particularly drawn to myself, but again, you may find otherwise. This one is an Osiris pendulum made up of a little stack of these domes and a pointed termination there at the tip. And again, a strong negative green energy emitting pendulum. Here is another one that's made up of spheres, a cone, and these discs of the Isis pendulum coming to a point. So these pendulums tend to focus energy and are very good for using directly over the body in healing, over particular small areas of the body where you can focus the healing energy. A really good all-round pendulum, which this one is a very high vibrational pendulum, Karnak. Check these readings for yourself when you get these pendulums, because you'll want to check, and each pendulum, even though they look the same, may give different results on the dowsing chart. But these are great designs, and I think they look really elegant too. A strong negative green emitting pendulum. Here's a pendulum which is a good little pendulum if you like light pendulums, it's quite small, as you can see. I put it next to my fingernail. It's called a nova pendulum. Actually, this one, although it being a high vibrational pendulum, it does something quite unusual when I hold it over the chart, the colour chart. It actually moves continually between different segments, and I'll just tell you what it's doing. So it's going alternately between infrared, and then it swings around the chart and settles at ultraviolet, and then it, after a few moments of swinging at ultraviolet, it moves to negative green, and it repeats that cycle over and over again. So that's quite an interesting one, but still a good pendulum to use. These Osiris style pendulums comprised of domes are credited with being very strong negative green emitters. This one's a very big, heavy pendulum, so if you like a really weighty pendulum, this is good. And you wouldn't want to be using it for a long session, because it would actually be quite tiring to hold that weight. But a really good, what I call a powerful pendulum, because it has very strong passive emission of negative green energy. This one actually was one that I had made out of olive wood. It's of a style that was created by Ibrahim Karim as a BG3 emitting pendulum, and I rather like the style, so I had it made bigger and in my favourite wood, which is olive wood. There's some beautiful markings on, as you can see, and yeah, that's a great pendulum. Let's have a look. This one is a very big, heavy pendulum. Not as heavy as the brass Osiris. A very strong negative green emitting pendulum. And I copied this one from one that was a specialist pendulum from Barge called a violet flame pendulum. For those that like working with the affirmations, the violet flame affirmations. And here is another variation on a theme. You can see this one has spheres. It's like the brass one I showed you. It has a cone here. Whenever you see cones and spheres and discs, you know that the pendulum is going to have a high level of negative green in its energy emission. And here's another one that I copied from a design by Ibrahim Karim, which is a BG3 emitting pendulum. Again, you can see elements that are very high passive emitters of negative green, including the cone, the discs, and we have a sort of almost like a start of a sphere and then coming down to a point. What these shapes tend to do is create a lot of negative green, but actually with this narrowing tend to focus the energy down the pendulum. So this is quite a good one again for holding directly over areas of the body to direct the harmonizing energy to. And then here's one which is a design that was put together by Eric Hunter. He calls it a Hunter Healer pendulum. I bought one from him, and I actually dropped it and it cracked, so I had one made to the same design in olive wood. That's called a Hunter Healer. And I can fully recommend Eric Hunter's online pendulum courses, his YouTube videos and books. He really has done a lot for pendulum dowsing and healing in those videos. Now, I'm not going to be able to talk much about the healing aspects. I'm going to have to do that in part 2 of this video because I'm running out of time, but still talking about the different styles of pendulum. This one is called a Mer-Isis pendulum. It's a variation of the Isis with this bowl shape here. And again, this is a natural emitter of negative green. And sorry, I think I might have that wrong. Let me just check that. What is the energetic colour of this pendulum? Yes, this one is grey. Now, negative green is very often credited as being with grey, and I always put it in the grey section of the chart because I believe that's where it does belong. That negative green is a mixture of black and white. But if you create a chart with negative green and grey next to each other on the chart, you will find that there is a distinction between the energies when you test various pendulums. And this one, which is a pendulum often used by healers and is said to be particularly good for relieving pain from joints and muscles and tendons. So a good one for holding directly over the particular area or the joint being affected. And of course, these are used with healing decrees, which we can talk about in a moment. But yes, I think that one could be considered a specialist pendulum for the relief of painful conditions. Other specialist pendulums, particularly for healing, I'd like to show you the universal pendulum. And books and videos have been made just about this pendulum. But it's very, very good for healing with colour. And around the equator of the pendulum, you will see markings which represent the various colour emissions of the pendulum. And it works by sliding the bow over the particular colour that you want to deliver. Now, another feature of this pendulum is that if you place it over a colour, let's just randomly choose blue, B for blue, and you hold this pendulum at the little, there's actually three little markers on the cord, and the only one that you really need to worry about or concern yourself with is the topmost marker, which is for the electromagnetic spectrum, because the other two are magnetic and electric, which are part of the electromagnetic spectrum anyway, so everything is really done through that point. You don't need to hold it at these. But once you've chosen your colour, you hold it over your hand or over a person if you're treating them, and this has a feature of being able to tell you whether that colour is required, because if it's a required colour, the pendulum will rotate in a clockwise manner, and if that colour is in excess, it will rotate in an anti-clockwise or counterclockwise manner. So you can actually use this pendulum for testing. I'll try now green. I don't know whether I need any of these colours, so let's just hold that. And you can actually feel the energy from these. You can feel it as a tingle in your hand. I can feel that. So I do need some green, and that is rotating in a clockwise way. And as in most of these cases, you just hold it until it changes to a to and fro motion. Now I think I'm going to have to call it a day on this one and follow up with part 2, because I haven't really started to talk about the healing decrees that you can use for pendulum healing. So I'll see you in part 2. Thank you for watching.